Imagine this. You're driving home. All of a sudden, you're in an accident. You can't open the door. Your seatbelt won't release. What do you do? What's up, guys? Shane here from Modern Warrior Project, and that's exactly what I'm going to tackle in today's video. A cheap little tool that truly could save your life. Quick little sideline story. So, about 2 years ago, I was sitting right here in my office. This is a home office, if it's not obvious. And I heard a loud bang outside. I look out my front window and I see right kind of catty corner to my house that there was a car not quite on the side. It was like in the ditch here. And then there was another truck beyond it. So I rush over there, and the truck's fine. The driver's kind of out, a little disoriented, but he's fine. And there's a young girl, I'd say 16, 17, that was driving in the car. And what happened is she pulled out. She was a friend of a neighbor. She pulled out and was T-boned. And so she's okay. She's a little shooken up, but she's okay. However, her door's kind of crushed in, if I recall right, and she cannot release the seatbelt. So I hop in there. I try and get the seatbelt off. Can't get the seatbelt off. I can smell gas. You can see gas. Gas is leaking from the car. And so now we've got a bad situation here, right? I just pulled out a knife and cut the seatbelt out, and we got her out. It was a non-event at the end of the day. However, there was minutes there before I even got there that gas is leaking in the car and the girl is pinned in there and can't get herself out. It would have taken just a little spark to light that whole thing on fire and make that a tragic situation. A seatbelt cutter, a simple little tool, could have potentially been the difference in that particular situation between that girl's life and death. Now, that's a good, mild story. The fact is, these things save lives. So, as I was saying, these things, a little seatbelt, glass breaking seatbelt combo tool, they really do. They save lives all the time, but more importantly is how many lives have they not been able to save because they just weren't present and someone couldn't get out of a vehicle that, had they had one, would have been able to. And that's what I'm hoping that we can change here. Now, this particular seatbelt cutter tool I have here is a very cheap one. I actually have some nice seatbelt cutters. I think I have a Kershaw or something like that as well. But I'm going to recommend that you get a cheap one. I want to say this is like $2 and something, and I'll tell you about where you can get them at here in a minute. But the question is, why would I recommend getting cheap ones? So I want to recommend getting cheap ones. Ultimately, if you've got the budget, by all means, get expensive, nice, best quality ones. But for the most part, a little $2 to $3 seatbelt cutting tool is going to work. And the reason I say I'm a fan of cheap in this case is because you don't need one in the vehicle. You need one in every location that someone could be pinned in the vehicle. So it's a lot easier to facilitate that with a little $3 tool where I've got one in drivers, passengers, rear seat places where anyone that can end up pinned can locate it, rather than one really nice one up in the glove compartment. Because if I'm pinned in the back seat and everyone's knocked out in the front seat or whatever it might be, that does me no good, right? So if you can afford the nice ones everywhere, certainly, but most people, myself included, we're on budgets, and a cheap option is great. And at the end of the day, it doesn't take much. It's just a simple razor blade that's wedged into a tool, and it can cut right through that seatbelt strap. And it's a simple, direct point to fracture that glass, which is tempered glass is not always easy unless you're doing it appropriately. So now let's talk the wear. I bought this on Teemu. I've bought a number of things on Teemu. Now, certainly, if for security purposes you don't want to use Teemu, I get that. I understand that. Maybe check Amazon, some other locations. I'll probably put some links in there. But I found there are certain things, because at the end of the day, a lot of the stuff we're buying is coming from China anyway. And at the end of the day, it's a cheap option. In this case, this is what I went with. And you can also get them elsewhere. So feel free, but I'll put links in below for whatever choice you might want to go with. Finally, spread the word on these. Share this video if you don't share the video, if you're just talking to friends, start sharing the word. The reason I did this, I didn't even think of doing this video until I just realized that talking to someone, they'd never heard of it. So it's not as known as I thought it was. So spread the word. You might actually help save a life.